This is wild. The trade rumors continue to escalate surrounding the Milwaukee Bucks as a recent article has dropped revealing a trade surrounding a Bucks player that might surprise you. So I'm going to break down that report and discuss what it can mean going forward as the Bucks are preparing for opening night. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. Before we get into it, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. If you're part of the 86 or so percent that aren't subscribed to the channel, we're less than 150 subscribers away from 1,000. That's been our goal for a while. So if you hit that button, it would mean the world to myself. Now, we have a lot to go over today. Obviously, trade rumors are running rampant surrounding the Milwaukee Bucks, because this is obviously a very important season for the team coming off of a brutal, disappointing season last year. We're now heading into the second year of the Dame and Giannis combo, and a recent article has dropped revealing a very interesting trade target for the Milwaukee Bucks. And it does make some sense because one of the guys shipping out of Milwaukee in this trade is none other than Pat Connaughton. And Pat Connaughton's name ever since the end of last year when he had a horrific playoff run. He had a pretty bad regular season as well, but we know how bad he was shooting, I think, less than 25% or less than 20% from three-point land in the playoffs. Ever since then, Milwaukee Bucks fans have been wanting to ship him off because he hasn't produced for the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs. And a recent article has dropped revealing an interesting trade pitch, or grade the trade pitch. Bucks land defensive menace in swap with the LA Clippers. Now, the defensive menace is not a guy you might expect. It is none other than Kris Dunn. So you can see the trade here, and I'm going to dive into the assets going out, the assets coming back our way, or the asset in this case, and why it could make sense for Milwaukee Bucks, or also the fact that it is an interesting trade. So it's Kris Dunn going to the Clippers for Pat Connaughton and a second round pick. So looking at this trade initially, the good thing is that you're getting back a very good defender in Kris Dunn. You're sending off Pat Connaughton. That I don't necessarily mind. But you are also sending a second round pick to the Clippers. And as we know, the Bucks don't have a ton of assets at this point. So any picks you give up, especially if this is happening before the season and not halfway through the year, is one less asset that you can use at the trade deadline in order to receive and go for it once the deadline happens in a few months' time here. So it's an interesting one. And again, we'll dive into all the stats here. But when you're looking at it from the Bucks' perspective, you are getting a very solid backup guard. You can see here, for the Milwaukee Bucks, the acquisition of Dunn could have immediate and tangible benefits. Dunn, known for his defensive tenacity, would bolster a Bucks team that prides itself on shutting down opponents. With a high-powered offense led by Dame and Giannis, their focus, as we all know, needs to shift, and they have shifted their focus to balancing the offense with elite perimeter defense, and adding Dunn into the mix strengthens a weak spot and can give the Bucks an edge come playoff time. So this is the interesting part here. The good thing about this trade is that you're getting a guy like Kris Dunn, who is a very good perimeter defender. Dating all the way back to when he was drafted and he played for the Bulls, he's always been, and his upside has always been on the defensive end. He's not a great scorer, he's not a great facilitator, but what he can do is play very elite defense. And when you're looking at the Bucks team and you're looking at their depth chart, you kind of need a guy that can play very good defense. You obviously have a starting lineup, presumably, of Dame, Gary Trent Jr., Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. So, the biggest knock on the Dame trade, even dating back to when it happened, was, does this make the Bucks better because you're shipping off your best perimeter defender and best defender in general, arguably, in Drew Holiday, and you're replacing him with a fully offensive-minded guard in Damian Lillard. Now, they addressed some of these issues to a degree. They got Gary Trent Jr., who can be a capable defender. They got DeLon Wright, who's a decent defender at the point guard position as well, and Taurean Prince, who's known for being a 3-and-D wing. But if you bring in Kris Dunn, you're strengthening your backup point guard, your backup guard defensive ceiling a lot, because you'd be able to bring him in. He would be able to help shelter Dame a little bit on the defensive end, whether that's on the second unit or if he's playing and you shift Dame to the 2 guard, but really he'd still be taking most of the on-ball priorities here. And that's what would be good about this, you'd be bolstering their defense, especially against guards, a lot. Because you can put Kris Dunn on the other team's best guard. Obviously, he's not big, so it'd have to be their best point guard or shooting guard. And that's what the article basically goes on to say. It says, for the Bucks, this trade would be all about addressing a specific need, which is still defense in the backcourt. Their defensive identity has been a cornerstone of their recent success, but they have issues containing elite guards with the backcourt star and Damian Lillard. It's like I just mentioned. Guarding, we saw last year to a degree. Dame definitely struggles. He's never been a great defender. But when you're going up against teams that have elite guards, now whether that is the Golden State Warriors, whether that is even at this point, Tyrese Maxey of the Sixers, who's developing and blossoming into one of the best guards in the league, you need to have a guy who can go out and shut him down, and they didn't have that last year after getting rid of Drew Holiday. By adding Kris Dunn, I'm not saying he can go out there and give you 25, 30 minutes, but he can go out there and give you 20 minutes of lockdown defense, tire out, I guess in this case, Tyrese Maxey, Steph Curry, whoever the guard is, and give Dame a bit of a break. Because, you don't want Dame guarding on the ball anyways, especially not against the very good teams. You kind of want to have him sheltered against, guarding a spot up or something like that. And it would be interesting. Dunn is a proven defensive player throughout his career, known for his ability to hound opposing guards and force turnovers. That's something the Bucks definitely need in the backcourt, where Damian Lillard would have to focus his energy on offense. Similarly to what we've seen throughout his entire career, whether it's with Portland and now with the Bucks, they need to have a very elite defending guard. Now, going out here is Pat Connaughton, and that's the interesting thing. Again, you look at Pat Connaughton, he had a very rough year last year, especially in the playoffs. But Pat Connaughton, is supposed to be a very decent defender, and he wasn't supposed to do what Kris Dunn is poised to do, because obviously Pat Connaughton's not a one guard by any means, but he's a two guard. He can play the three. He was supposed to be able to shut down the opposing team's better guards or wings, but he hasn't really been able to do that. His defense regressed a little bit, and by adding Kris Dunn, you kind of know what you're getting. Again, you're not going to be getting much offense, but what you are going to get is definitely defense. And again, you look at some of the stats here. So his reputation isn't that of a star. Dunn definitely isn't a star, especially scoring. He's 6'3", very good defensively. He probably wouldn't start, and there's a case to be made where he can battle it out with DeLon Wright for the backup guard role. Possibly adding Dunn would further solidify the Bucks' defensive identity, making them a formidable force on the defensive end. According to Cleaning the Glass, which is an interesting, basically goes on to say that when Dunn was on the court, the opposing team turned the ball over almost 1% more while shooting negative 1.4 points fewer per 100 possessions. So basically, he's a very good defender according to all these advanced metrics here. And again, he's not great. He has ranked at the 75th and 65th percentiles among combo guards in those statistics. So ultimately, it comes down to him being a very solid guard. He's not going to blow, he's not going to be amazing. He's not going to be a phenomenal guard that plays 40 minutes a game or even 30 minutes a game. But what he can do is give you 20 minutes a game, 25 minutes a game, a formidable backup guard to Dame. And it's a very good compliment. Again, the more you look at the depth chart, the more you say the only thing they're lacking is defense. And again, they're bringing in guys like Taurean Prince, like Gary Trent Jr. to help take some pressure off of Damian Lillard, but neither of those two guys, especially Gary Trent Jr., he's a very capable defender. We've seen it in Portland. He was tenacious. With the Raptors, at times, he was a very good defender. However, for the most part, he's still more of a scorer. He's a 3-and-D kind of guy. He creates very well on the ball. He's not even like a 3-and-D guard at this point of his career, but he can play formidable defense. But if you bring in a guy like Kris Dunn, it adds an extra layer to the Milwaukee Bucks team that they definitely need. But you're also giving up, in this case, a second-round pick and Pat. And by doing that, the question is, how much of an upgrade is Kris Dunn over Pat Connaughton? It's probably a significant upgrade, especially on the defensive end. But Connaughton was a very interesting, player. He's had some very good, bright moments with the Bucks. But ultimately, I think Kris Dunn might be a better fit. He shoots decent on corner threes. Again, last year he averaged 5 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 47% from the field, almost 37% from three. So above average three-point shooter. Pretty efficient, very efficient overall. And again, he's not going to be a guy who plays a ton, but what he can do is give you defense. And at this point of his career, he's a bit of a veteran now, almost 31 years old. He could provide some well-needed depth to the Milwaukee Bucks roster. But let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. The biggest gripe for me is giving up that second-round pick. We don't have a ton of second-round picks to begin with, so giving up any assets that could hinder our ability to make a move at the deadline is a little bit worrisome. But I think Dunn could be a very important piece for the Bucks if they go ahead and get it. But let me know in the comment section. See you tomorrow.